Hello again. I'm sure you're getting tired of hearing my voice, but welcome to this video. And if you are getting annoyed with my voice, you'll be happy to hear that this is actually the last video that I am doing, as long as you watch them in order. So hopefully this isn't like the third or the fourth video that you're watching. It's truly the last video on the playlist that we upload to YouTube. In this video, we'll be talking about the Montana University system, the Office of Commissioner of Higher Education, the Board of Regents, and the state ledge a little bit, and then as well as the collective bargaining agreement and the University of Montana administration. So it's quite a bit to cover, but we'll probably get through it in about 15-20 minutes. So strap yourselves in and get ready to hear some very, very exciting details about the way that the state functions with higher education. So the first thing I'll talk about is the Board of Regents, and this is the basically hierarchical status of this governance for Montana University system schools. So this basically approves everything and is the end-all be-all of all issues in the Montana University system. This is where you get to see fee increases approved. This is where you get to see missions of institutions amended. This is where you see majors and minors approved or denied by the Board of Regents, and so on and so forth. It has the full power, responsibility to coordinate and manage and control the Montana University system. I know it was a little kind of confusing there, sorry, but if you just take a look at this, you'll see it basically has everything to read, and you can go through and read it and get a little bit educated. If you still a little bit confused about it afterwards, go and just Google Board of Regents Montana, and you can find more information about the board. You can look at some agendas and minutes, and then you can also look at their policies too. Policies are a little bit boring, but if you want to look at how student governments are governed by the Montana Board of Regents, make sure to look at Board of Regents Policy 506.2, as that's how all associated students are governed. And then Montana Board of Regents Policy 506.3 governs the Montana associated students. So those are the two that are very, very applicable and relevant to ASUM, and potentially you may have to interact and abide by those policies. Just another quick tidbit about the Board of Regents. It is a 7-person board. All of the members are recommended for appointment by the governor and confirmed by the Montana Senate, and they're serving 7-year overlapping terms, with the exception of one member who is a student regent, and that student gets confirmed and appointed by the governor as a 1-year full-time term. They have the option to be reappointed as many times as they want. Yeah, that's basically the board, and that's pretty good overview of kind of just the structure and the people that are on it. The next is the Office of Commissioner of Higher Education. So this is basically the heart of the Montana University system. It's basically the day-to-day manager of institutions, and it consists of a lot of staff that manage academic planning policy, coordinates finances and fee restructures, among a bunch of other things. Basically, a good way for you to analyze that, for you to know this, is it oversees and manages all MUS schools on a day-to-day basis. So it's ran by the Commissioner of Higher Education, and as of now, the Commissioner is Clayton Christian, and he oversees the entire system. Under him, he has a couple deputy commissioners to oversee some areas. So there's the Deputy Commissioner for Budgeting and Planning, who is also his Chief of Staff, Tyler Trevor. He oversees the financial and operations aspects of university. So he is the reporting structure for the Vice President of Operations and Finance at the University of Montana to go to in the state. The next one is the Deputy Commissioner of Academic Research and Student Affairs. And right now that is Brock Tespin. He is the person that really oversees the provost and the Vice President for Student Affairs / Vice President / Vice Provost for Student Success. And then the third one, that's the more important one of overseeing, is the Deputy Commissioner for Human Resources. And he oversees, obviously, all the human resources. And his name right now is Kevin McRae. It could be different in the future, but as of now, during the 2020-2021 academic year, it is Kevin McRae. So you can get a little bit more information by reading this, but if you want more information, if you go to the Board of Regents website, there is a tab on the top that talks about OCHE, which is the abbreviation for Office of Commissioner of Higher Education, OCHE. And you can click on that and read a little bit more about the staff, about what they do, and so on and so forth. So if you want some more information, go to that. And if the website's changed, just Google Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education, or a better way to Google it would be OCHE, Montana, and you'll find what you're looking for. The next one is the Montana Associated Students. And just so, as a brief overview, the Montana Associated Students is basically the ASUM of the state. So it represents all MUS institutions, or all MUS student governments statewide. And it goes to, it is really representing students at the Board of Regents, as well as the state legislature when it hires its lobbyists. So you can see kind of what the MAS Constitution describes in its, or MAS describes in its Constitution as an overview of MAS. And then you can see the officers for my year, the 2019-2020 year, down below. And you can see that from the University of Montana, the president, during my year, Abigail Belcher, served as the Vice President of External Affairs. So if you want more information about it, Google Montana Associated Students. You can look at their bylaws, you can look at their constitution, and you can look at some of their initiatives that they've done over the past couple of years. And then the next thing that I'll show you before I get into more University of Montana politics is the reporting chart. So the way that it typically works is for MSU and U of M, they have very, very similar reporting structures. There's a president at the University of Montana, and same with MSU, and it oversees pretty much all of the institutions that are in its affiliates. So the affiliate is the University of Montana or Montana State University. So for instance, University of Montana obviously has Missoula, but for those of you that don't know, the University of Montana also has the Dillon campus, so that's why it's called UM Western. Same with Helena College, University of Montana, Helena College, and Tech, which is Montana Technological Institute. So that is all under the UM umbrella, including Missoula College and Bitterroot College right now. For MSU, what they have under their umbrella is the Bozeman campus, MSU Northern, which is the campus in Havre, MSU Billings, and MSU Montana State University Great Falls, which is one of the only two-year campus that they have besides Gallatin College. So there is that just as a reporting structure. They all report to the president of their respective institutions. So there's just a little bit of tidbit on that. And then the community colleges have their own reporting structure in the way that they report to the Commissioner of Higher Education. They don't report to anyone at MSU or U of M since they are not an affiliate, and they just go straight to the Commissioner of Higher Education. Now, everyone does report to the Commissioner of Higher Education, and the Commissioner reports to the Board of Regents. So that's just the basic way to view that. And then if you look at the Commissioner of Higher Education, you can see some of the reporting structures that go under for them when they have to govern OCHE in the Montana University system. So you can look and kind of see that student affairs and student success is under academic research and student affairs. That deputy commissioner obviously reports to the commissioner. For budget and planning, you can see that internal audit is under budget administration and planning, and the deputy commissioner for that reports to the commissioner. So as you can see, there's 4 spots and 4 deputy commissioners with varying amounts of work and resources to do that. And then right here, you can see that I have the regents named for the 2019-2020 academic year. John Miller that year was a student regent. And for those of you that are watching for the 2020-2021 academic year, the student regent has actually changed. It is not John Miller this year. Her name is Amy Sexton. She is a student at Montana State University Billings. So we're looking forward to seeing her serve on the Board of Regents, and it should hopefully be a swell time. So the last 2 things I'm going to talk about are the University of Montana in relation to the administration, as well as the rights that students get under the collective bargaining agreement and the state legislature. So we can start with the state legislature. The one big disclaimer that you should know is that I'm not going to talk about the state legislature politics. It's too vast and too much to fit into a video like this. So you know, maybe the Student Political Action Committee could develop a video to explain that a little bit more. But for the purposes of introducing you to Senate, I'm just going to talk about what ASUM really does at the Ledge every off year. So a couple of things that they do, ASUM, as well as the Montana Associated Students, hire a lobbyist in order to lobby on behalf of issues that students see the most. Typical issues that have come up in the past couple legislative sessions have been renters' rates, higher education funding, healthcare / Medicaid expansion, which was very relevant to the last, or to the 2019 legislative session. And then, I'm trying to think what else. LGBTQ plus rights, and just a myriad of other issues, including sustainability as well. So they lobby and meet with legislators and give public comment, supporting those issues that ASUM passes at its legislative priority. As a senator, there are a couple ways to get involved. The first is that whatever issue that you want to talk about, make sure that you talk about it with your execs and try to find time to go to the state legislature in Helena and lobby on those issues and try to get legislators on your side to vote for it. You know, it's not just, you're not just here to kind of support ASUM. Well, you are here obviously to support ASUM, but if you have your own projects that you want to work on in relation to the state legislature, that's a perfect way to get involved as an ASUM senator and talk about those projects that you really want to see pass in the ledge. The next thing is that usually every single legislative session, they host what's typically called a Rotunda Day or a student day, where students from all MUS campuses will go up to the Capitol and lobby legislators on issues that their student governments have passed as their legislative priorities. Usually it's always higher education spending, but you know, sometimes people lobby on healthcare issues or renters' rights, but typically that's a day that is a big rally for higher education spending. The next thing that's kind of involved is ASUM's influence, I should say. So right before ledge session, you usually see a resolution passed that's drafting the legislative priorities. During a legislative session, there are a ton of bills that come up, usually thousands that come up, or hundreds or thousands. And there's ways that that the student government / the Senate can influence the way that the ledge works. And that's through resolutions, passing them and then sending them to appropriate legislators to really see what the student government is thinking of the University of Montana. And that's also where if you see an issue come up, and let's say you can't go to Helena, or you're just unable, or you don't want to, you can draft a resolution for a bill that you want to see lobbied on and instruct the lobbyist to lobby on it, whether that's talking to legislators or giving public comment. That's a great way to get involved in the ledge session. And the ledge session is so massive and so important that no matter what you do, no matter what effort, it's always going to be good, but it's usually never enough. You can always do more for the ledge session, and every single year, it's, for whatever reason, more important than the last. So make sure if you are on Senate when a ledge session is happening, get involved. You know, it's a great way to get your foot in the door with ASUM, potentially running for executive, or even if you're interested in getting into politics, you know, kind of seeing what that's like in the state ledge, talking to legislators, looking at how committees run, look at how the House and the Senate is run, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of ASUM's involvement with the ledge. And the last thing I'll talk about is the University of Montana administration and getting involved, as well as a collective bargaining agreement lecture. So per the collective bargaining agreement in section 20.00, students are entitled to sit on every single university committee with the exception of a few, and they're named in the collective bargaining agreement. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but most of them have to deal with confidential employment matters. So what does that mean? Well, what does that mean for confidential employment matters? It's usually like a dispute between a supervisor and a subordinate in the way that they were either disciplined or fired, something that students probably shouldn't be involved in. The next thing is, so carrying on from that, the guaranteed right that students get to sit on university committees is pretty awesome. And we have a lot of influence in that regard. And for every single university committee that there is, if there is 4 or less on the committee, that means 1 student gets to be on it. If there's 5 or more, that means 2 students get to be on it. So every single university committee, we usually get 2 people on it. There are some committees that we actually get more on. For instance, the Academic Standards and Curriculum Review Committee, we get 5. Gen Ed, we get 3. And there's actually other instances where students have a majority on university committees, such as the University Center Board and the University Conduct Board, just to name a few. So that's pretty important, and that right is really great. Another thing that's in the collective bargaining agreement that I won't take a deep dive into is the role of an academic grievance with a faculty member. That's usually represented through what was previously known as the Student Resolution Officer in ASUM, but has now been moved to our legal services. So that service just provides representation for students that are grieving an academic conduct matter, and it usually goes to the Student Complaint Board or the Academic Conduct Board in some cases. So now shifting back to university committees and involvement within the UM administration, there are a number of university committees for you to sit on. When I was VP, there was about 100. So there's never not any to sit on. And also when I was vice president, I sat on more than 25 committees. So any volunteer effort that you can take to get a university committee is going to be helpful. So make sure to step up and serve on those university committees. It's crucially important to have students on those committees so that everyone can get the perspective. Make sure you show up to those meetings and make sure you contribute meaningfully. So that's pretty much it for the collective bargaining agreement. With the UM administration, I'm going to allow your executives to kind of explain the structure of the UM administration a little bit more, as it's been changing and ever flux for the last couple of years. But if you have any questions about the UM administration structure or even this, make sure to reach out to your executives. They would be more than happy to talk to you or to answer your questions. I hope these series of videos have been helpful in educating you and preparing you for becoming an ASUM senator. And I wish you the best of luck in your upcoming service.